Yo, how's it going, guys? Today we out here with the head, the talking head, amazing, and the budget prank kids list. I've been playing this on ladder and it works really great up to like platinum. Afterwards, it gets a little bit tougher since you don't run any hand traps. But I made this for Tree's budget tournament. I'll link his YouTube channel down in the description. Basically, the rules are it's 4 ultra rare cards and 7 super rare cards, and a 16 turn limit. And then there's also an additional extra ban list that gets rid of a few of the floodgates and stuff. And what is also really nice is that all the free cards that you get from the solo mode, from the free structure decks, the starter decks, and the solo mode structure decks, you can use all of those cards in here. So you can see we have a few more SRs than usual because this one is free. And the same for the URs. This one's also free. This one's free. So I'll be going over the deck. Then I'll be showing off 2 combo lines. And then lastly, I only have 2 replays left from last season that I have already pre-recorded, but unfortunately, Konami decided to update again, so I got 2 good games in yesterday. One, I got the chain block Ash Blossom for 2 turns, so that was pretty nice, but unfortunately the replay is now gone because of the new update. I really need to more frequently record my replays so I always have space for saving new ones. All right, so without further ado, this list, we're running the maximum amount of prank kids cards. We want to use them for the grind game. Prank kids have the strong advantage of having a 1-card combo off any kid. So that's the green one, the blue one, the red one, the brown or yellow, I'll just call it brown one, and the field spell also searches for one. So that's 15 copies of your 1-card starter. That's really nice, really consistent. You also have a really strong grind game. A lot of decks have like good recursion in the grind game and stuff. Prank kids have literally infinite recursion since you can add back spells, traps, and monsters from your graveyard back to your hand. Keep recycling them. You have a lot of link climbing you get to do. You get to go from 1 body to 3 and then a few extra in hand. You win in the turn limit settings because the blue one heals you for 1,000 and the red one burns your opponent for 500 life points. We have still a lot of space for non-engine here, but hand traps are too expensive, so we're just going to run like generically good cards like Chalice, Book of Moon, Mystical Space Typhoon. And the cool thing about prank kids is also that polymerization is a really good card in the deck. They have their own fusion monsters here. This one lets you just revive 2 prank kids, which really helps with link climbing as well. And all your kids, when they're linked or fused off, replace themselves. And that's how you get all the bodies on the board. So you can see we have a small math mech package here. Because super factorial plus the negate from diameter is just so good, and prank kids can make any rank 1 through 4 if they open polymerization. So our goal here is to get the prank kids end board, which is here pranks for recursion and drawing a card your end phase. You have the pandemonium to go into Battle Butler on your opponent's turn. This card tributes itself to just wipe the board. It's just Reigeki as a quick effect. You have a lot of bodies on the board, since when you fuse, they'll replace themselves again. They're all protected from card destruction because you're using the Bow Wow Bark on their turn. And we'll also be going for a super factorial set with 3 names, including diameter in the graveyard. So pretty strong, especially in the budget formats. We have a lot of tools to deal with a bunch of other stuff. We have, of course, the non-engine cards here to help us out stuff. But in engine, we also have the early here, which comes back during the end phase, and it gets to negate an effect monster and reduces attack to 0. This is pretty easy to trigger, since you can just summon stuff to Link Zone and then use it. We have the Raster Liger here, which is just our budget access code. This thing is free. You can see I have 8 copies. I can dismantle none of them because it's also in the legacy packs. Basically, you get to tribute a monster it points to, and then pop cards on the field, non-targeting, pretty cool. But the important thing is you get to target a Link monster in either graveyard, and then you gain that much attack. So you already have 2000, and normally you would target something in a Cyber deck that has 2300 attack, like all the Code Talkers, so you'd go up to 43. If you're playing Cyber, so you use Update Jammer, so you do kill on an empty board with this as well. But the cool thing here is we have very accessible Link monsters that we go into every turn with 2000 attack. And our Link boss monster actually has 3000 attack, which is pretty high for Link monsters, since most of them have some kind of attack modifier to reach high attack, like Access Code or Appaloosa. The Rip-Roaring Roaster here, speaking of, is the same thing as the Battle Butler, but as a Link monster, and instead of popping monsters, it pops back row. So this is just a quick effect, Harpy's Feather Duster, very nice. Our Weather Washer is like Armades. It's if it attacks, or if any of your Prank Kids monsters attacks, your opponent can't activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step. This is really, really strong if your opponent doesn't see it coming. The way this works with the priority is if you attack, this doesn't activate, it just happens as a passive effect, sort of like Baguska turning stuff to defense. If you attack, you can still use stuff afterwards. So you can fire off your negates or your Book of Moon or your MSTs, and they can't chain to it because they're not allowed to activate. And when you finish your attack, priority gets passed straight back to you. Your opponent doesn't have a window of opportunity to activate anything. This also stops floating effects, stuff like Sangan to Search or Mystical Tomato or whatever it's called. What are the new searching cards? Oof. Something like the Pearly stuff that recurs all the resources. They couldn't activate in the damage step either. So that's very, very nice. And we also have the Rocket Ride as part of the combo. This one gets a tribute on your turn to revive 2 Prank Kids, and this one also gets a tribute on their turn to revive 2 Prank Kids. And those also can't be destroyed by battle. The Doodle Doo, on your turn, you tribute it to add back 2 Prank Kids cards to your hand. This one you tribute on your opponent's turn to add 2 Prank Kids cards to your hand. This one on summon also just searches any Prank Kids card, and this one, when you use its effect, you also protect all your Prank Kids from effect destruction. So the really cool thing is if you need to stall or your opponent has interrupted you a bit and you can't get into Battle Butler, you can just use Bow Wow Bark on their turn, get back any 2 Prank Kids, and then you fuse into Weather Washer on their turn, and then you just summon any 2 guys off of this, and they can't be destroyed by battle or card effect. So that's pretty huge. The rest of the ones, yeah, the Prank Kids just replace themselves and have an additional effect. This one gains life, this one burns, this one dumps a Prank Kids card from your deck to the graveyard, and this one banishes a card from your hand to draw another card. Parallel Exceed is just there to get Alimbertion. It's another way of accessing the Mathmech line, and I will be showing a combo with a Prank Kid and Exceed, and I'll be showing a combo with a Prank Kid and Polymerization. Alright, here's the Exceed combo. So it's just going to be the normal Prank Kids line, and you can use Exceed whenever you want. If you think they have an Imperm, you could probably just hold the Exceed until later in the combo, because if they interrupt your Prank Kids, you can actually just keep playing, especially if you open any of their spells, but you lose full access to the Mathmech line if they hold it for that. You want to summon the Green Kid second, always, if possible. And we're just going to go into the Alimbertion early here. This will pull all the Mathemate cards out of our deck. So when we draw, which will happen twice during our turn, we're not going to draw into those. So you add the Circular here. Circular is going to use its effect. It's going to dump the Nabla. We're going to use the Alimbertion to tribute itself. This will bring back the Nabla from the graveyard. Circular is going to add the Superfactorial. And Nabla is going to activate to tribute anything. Doesn't really matter. And that'll get out the Diameter. Now it's important, we need them in the graveyard. So we're going to just make an early here. Set that up. And now we'll just continue with the normal Prank Kids line here. We're gonna chain block the kid again. Alright, you're gonna want to make sure you have Pranks and Pandemonium in rotation. So we're gonna pretend we didn't just draw this Pandemonium. I like adding the Pranks. And then you will use the Fansies to send a Pandemonium. We'll summon a kid we haven't used yet. You can click on them and you'll see the effect was used this turn. This one hasn't used its effect. This one hasn't used its effect yet. If we're doing the Exceed line, you're going to want to summon the Roxy's last. You always want to summon Roxy's last unless you're doing the Polymerization line. Now we're going to use the bird here. We're going to add back the Pandemonium from the graveyard and any kid. Doesn't matter which one it is because we're going to discard it. When we use the Prank Kids Pranks. And I'm just going to discard the additional Pandemonium we had. Doesn't really matter what it is. You can always just discard the kid that you added. I'll set this so it stops giving me the triggers. And now if we check our graveyard, we have 1, 2, 3 names in here. So we're going to have to go into second doodle do here. Going to use this, grab our last kid to the field. And now we're going to end on the Bow Wow Bark. And we can put it into early zone. So we get to trigger the early. We're going to banish any card from our hand here. And we're going to summon the green one because it has the most defense. Now, what does this board do? So we can tribute the Bow Wow Bark. This will trigger the early to negate an effect monster and reduces attack to 0. This also clears up zones for a Superfactorial to rip a card from the hand and then send one monster and one back row to the graveyard as well. Plus we get the negate. And then we have the Pandemonium to go into our Battle Butler. And of course, during the end phase, we're going to use Pranks. Now it's very, very important that you shuffle back the Meow Moo. I strongly believe it's way too greedy to keep this in the graveyard and just banish it so you don't have to tribute your Battle Butler because there's only one of them and it's really hard to get follow-up sometimes otherwise. I'm going to shuffle back one of the birds and then one of the names that we have a bunch of. So we already have green on field, so we're going to get rid of the green. You want to make sure you have the green, the red, and the blue on field or in graveyard at this point. So this red was the one we added back from the graveyard before. Alright, you can either activate this early to play around Kaijus or something, or you can just hold it in order to trigger the early. It's a Swamp Frog, and I'm just going to use this here to show the negate. We're going to make sure we have the red, the blue, and the green in hand. So we're missing the blue, and this doesn't matter. Now we get to chain the early to it to negate this. Tribute summoning. Yeesh. That's crazy. Alright, so it's the end of the main phase. Now, you have to be careful. If you use the Pandemonium, it locks you into Prank Kids. So we're just going to use a Super Factorial here. Summon back all 3 of these guys. Since we do have the zones available here. If you want to use the Battle Bulk early, you can summon the Laplacian into the zone right here. So you to trigger the early again. I'm going to put it in the far left zone. If you have non-Prank Kids monsters, you'd usually put them into the far left zone here. Because you can point to every other zone with a dog, which will increase attack. Alright, this is main phase only. So I'm just going to use it now to show we get the Butler here. You can use the 3 names we added back. And now we can use all of these. I like putting the green one on the highest chain link because we don't really care if this if one of them gets ashed, we're still getting 2 of them out. And we don't want to run through our engine too fast. So here we're running the Prank Kids plan. This gives us recursion. If it's in the graveyard and our opponent attacks us, then we get to shuffle back a bunch of Prank Kids cards and then reduce their attack. But mainly we're using it just for all the Prank Kids cards. Alright, if you had any monsters, we could use the Battle Butler here, tribute itself, pop everything. So I think at this point you can see how this combo works, how powerful this can be. And now we'll get to the Kid plus Polymerization combo. Alright, here we have a Kid plus Polymerization. Just for standard case, I'm going to be just grabbing the red one here. I'm gonna set this because it's annoying me. Alright, so you summon your first kid, link it off into the kitty cat, use the effect, and you always want to summon green as the second one if possible. This is why I just got another one. I'm going to go into the birdie. I'm going to make sure we get both of our spells into rotation here. So here we're going to add the pranks. We're going to send the Pandemonium. And here we have 2 left. It's the rock one and the water one. And this time we're going to summon the rock one first. This is the one line where we do this first. If you want to make an exceed monster, you summon the prank kid here, whose rank you want to make, if that makes sense. So if you want to make a rank 4 like we do, you have to make sure your last kid is not level 4. If you want to summon a rank 2, like you can make totally awesome if it ever gets unbanned again, then you would make sure that the water one is not the last one. Now here we use Polymerization, and we're going to summon the Rocket Ride, and we're just going to be using 2 guys from the field, since we wouldn't necessarily have the fansies in hand here. Now we have a bunch of opportunities to chain block everything here, not like it matters. And I'm just going to banish the fansies here. Alright, and now we grab our last one. We're going to use the Rocket Ride here. I'm going to grab back the Doodle Doo. I'm going to grab back the level 4. Now the Doodle Doo here is going to get back our Pandemonium and any discard for the pranks. I just discard this. This is what we added. Let's go into the dog here. I'm going to summon the second level 4. And this lets us go into Alum version. which will get us a circular here. I'm going to use the circular again to dump the Nabla. Use the Alimbertion to tribute itself. Bring back the Nabla. Circular triggers to add super factorial. And the Nabla just tribute itself. Get the diameter out. And we'll just use early here just to link these guys off. Alright, there we go. We set these two. Boom, there we go. Now, if we have any way to get, if we have any other Prank Kids card in rotation at any point of this combo, this also makes Butler. So if we didn't banish the Fansies, but instead we banished something else, or if we didn't discard our Prank Kid for the pranks, instead we discarded the plan, we would be able to have a red, a green, or a blue in hand. And we get to add back the other two missing ones with the dog here. So this way we still have the super factorial. And during their turn, we will be going into a weather washer, which we can put into early zone. So we get to have the negate. Plus the weather washer gets to attribute itself to bring back any two monsters that we want from the graveyard. And they also can't be destroyed by battle, which is also pretty big. So that guarantees that they stick. You can add 2 Link 4s, and then the first thing you do in the main phase is just, sorry, 2 Link 2s. And the first thing you do in the main phase is make the Link 4, blow up all the back row, something like that. And of course we still have the super factorial here at the beginning. All right, I have 2 replays for you guys where I don't just run through the full combo. That's boring. Those games are easy. It's playing through Disruption, but I recorded them a while ago, so I hope they're still good. Alrighty, so this hand we unfortunately draw the super factorial, but we're just gonna go ahead and combo normally. We just do the same line and it'll still work out. Just make sure, well, I guess you can't search for circular anyways, right? So here we're gonna go into our normal line right here. Summon out our prank kids off the doodle do. We're gonna grab the pranks here and dump the pandemonium. And right here we get nibbed. So this is normally pretty devastating, especially in this budget build, right? Since we don't have Verte or Link Spider or anything, right? So what I'm gonna do is I'm going to Book of Moon my dropsies here, because Nib only tributes face up monsters. So this will let me dodge Nibiru on one of my kids. And now since I added the pranks to my hand, I can discard the place. And this gives me a token, which I can now polymerization off into Rocket Ride. This unfortunately doesn't let me get into the Mathmech line here, but it does give me a normal Prank Kids end board. So at least fortunately, we get to play the game a bit here. I'm gonna banish this. We're gonna use Fusion Sage here for some deck thinning, and we're gonna get Fansies onto the field because it has the most defense, and then we're gonna use Bow Wow Bark to grab back a blue and a red kid. We set the super fac as a bluff. It's not like it's gonna be live anymore. We could use it as banish fodder, I guess, for Roxy's, but it's not like that really matters as much. So we get Dusted here, so we can chainlink 1 Pandemonium, chainlink 2 Bow Wow Bark. This works because we can make Washer as a legal target with the Bow Wow Bark and the Fansies. And now we add these guys to our hand. And on resolution of Pandemonium is when we choose the fusion monster we want to make. So since we have the necessary materials for Butler now, we can actually just fuse right into the Battle Butler. Go ahead, boom, get that animation, let's go. Alright, I'm gonna summon out all the kids. And here, the green kid is the most important kid, turn 1, because you need to get both spells into rotation. but afterwards it eats through your engine a bit too fast. So I like using it on the last chain link. If I don't have the field spell, of course, I like using it on the last chain link to bait out an Ash Blossom, because I don't really care if it resolves. I don't need it to resolve. I'd prefer it to not resolve, honestly. And lo and behold, he has the Ash Blossom here. Kind of unlucky, must have drawn it for turn. He would have used it last turn. And now we Butler, pop his normal summon, uses the imperm of Rage, and ends on nothing. And of course, it's fairly trivial to find lethal here. Just going to let this play really quickly. Gonna use the Doodle Doo here. Use all the kids. We're actually running the trap here, which is pretty nice for the budget build. And then we fuse into the washer, so we can get the attack bonus from the field spell. Very interesting, it actually boosts all your monsters, including the Nib token. So that's pretty funny. Yeah, we just have trivial lethal right here. And we swing for game. Alrighty, this one is a bit awkward going second, and we do open combo and one of our pieces, which is already nice. But we also open the brick plan and the brick nabla, and we have an exceed here, which could also be used to extend, so that's not bad. Unfortunately, we're going second into Floowandereeze, and they just make MPIM, and we are a link deck. So this is looking not good at all. My outs are here are Raigeki, of course, but he probably has a line to just remake it anyways. I could Book of Moon, or maybe Forbidden Chalice here. And there's one other thing I could try, which is a polymerization line, hoping he doesn't realize what's happening. So first off, we're gonna have to force out his trap here. So we summon a 4 here and use Exceed because this makes Laplation, and this just outs all the shit. So he has to respond here. Right? Now he bounces the cat. Kind of unlucky. But at least I have it back for follow-up now, guaranteed already. Oh, which I would have pranks anyways, probably. So we use pranks to pitch the trap. It's just a brick anyways, but it's a prank kid's name. So now we get to have a prank kid token and a prank kid's on the field. It doesn't matter if it's face down because we're fusing with it. And here we make the weather washer. Now we've already reduced his attack with the field spell. Now we're buffing ours. And we have more attack than he does, right? And if my prank kid's monster attacks, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects until the end of the damage step. So my out here is him not realizing that he can't use the effect to have my attack and stuff, and just dies. And he's probably just assuming since I'm in attack position, I can't use my effects, right? But this doesn't activate. So it just applies, and I get to be over this. This is huge. Now I link these two off. I get to make our link once, and he has imperm. So it's a good thing he didn't realize what was happening, or he could have just cucked me right there. So we get to remake this, because we haven't used the second effect yet, so now it's live. And this actually gives us our Battle Butler access already. And we get some follow-up, draw a card here, and it's a dead card. Now, on his turn, we get Dustered, but we still have to make Butler here. Now we get some follow-up here, pretty juicy. Unfortunately, they don't have any protection at all, and we get Dark Rulered. But fortunately, it turns out he had all the Eaglin targets in hand already, so we win. On the one hand, I kind of got sacked there. On the other hand, I don't think I should have won this game, to be honest. Maybe we outgrind him a little bit, but I don't think he's falling for it again with the Weather Washer. Being said, it's not really like he can do that much about it. It's pretty awkward, to be honest. But I just wanted to show how you can play through some of the disruption here in this game, basically. All right, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. I hope you see how cool the prank kids are. They're very, very cheap. very good as a starter deck because it helps you understand how combo decks can work. They always do the same thing, so you don't need to learn a bunch of different combos, but there's a lot of small nuances you have that can actually show your skill expression. So it's really, really cool where if you have some extenders, you can play through a ton of hand traps. Normally, you would die to just Ash Blossom on the first kid, but if you have any of your extenders, you can actually keep playing. Parallel Exceed still gets you into the full Mathemic combo. If you have the World Legacy Succession or the Monster Reborn, you would normal summon your kid, link it off into the cat, don't use the effect, and then you revive it, and then you link it both of the monsters off in the bird, and that way you get to chain block the kid with the bird, and then you at least have something on the board. Even if they Ash Blossom you, then at least you don't pass on nothing. So very, very nice. Polymerization also helps you play through it. Polymerization also helps you play without your normal summon, so that's very, very nice. You have the great grind game, and I think this deck is really cool. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Like, comment, subscribe, and tomorrow I will finally start working on the pendulum summoning guide. All right, see you guys.